My dear friends, masters, and co-creators, welcome to the Breath Awareness Summit. Hi, I'm Saroja Gullapalli, and I live in Melbourne, Australia. I've been practicing and teaching meditation for the last 15 years. I hold self-empowerment sessions on free voluntary basis in the community within Australia and abroad. The aim of which is to build a community with individuals who believe in themselves and have miraculous thinking that aids in the overall growth of the humanity. My vision is to support my fellow beings live a complete and balanced life through self-empowerment. It gives me great pleasure to talk to you through this summit on Journey to the Divine Space. Two words that you will be coming across repeatedly during this summit is meditation and mindfulness. Before we progress any further, let us take a step back and question, why meditate? The practice of meditation is a fabulous journey to the space between our thoughts, where all the advantages of a happy, healthy, peaceful, stress-free, and fatigue-free life are available. All these are great motivators to begin a meditation practice. Who wouldn't want to have a happy, healthy, and purposeful life, which is a result of all these benefits? However, all these reasons fade in comparison to one realization that meditation is our way to make conscious contact with that creative force of life itself, which you may call consciousness, universe, Paramatma, Jesus, God, doesn't matter with what name you want to address it. The paramount reason for making meditation a part of your daily practice is to join forces with the sacred energy and to know the complete power of your source, which is consciousness. Through meditation, you can tap into the abundance of that creative life force and have a meaningful experience of life which enriches us. By doing meditation, we come to know God. We come to taste and experience consciousness than to know about God or to hear from someone what consciousness is like. This is a first-hand experience. What more can we ask? The ultimate reason of meditating is to get into that space where we enter that divine space, where we can know the unlimited power of the source. Like I say, in an average daily routine, an average human being has around 60,000 thoughts going on within the waking hours. It's very unlikely that we are ever going to reach a point where we are going to find space between our thoughts. It's simply not possible to have time and space to enter into that gap between our thoughts. Yet, it's precisely in that gap where the magic and the infinite possibilities await us. So why should we concern ourselves with entering into this elusive gap? Because everything emerges from that void, from that space, from that gap. From the void of nothing emerges anything and everything. Like they say, the silence between the notes is what makes the music. So creativity is function of that space, of that gap between our thoughts. In the silence between our thoughts, we can find the possibility of the creative genius and the spiritual awareness that elude us when we remain attentive to our ongoing fruitless thoughts. When we make contact, the conscious contact with the God, it is said that we come to know the power, the complete power of that source, and we can use that power to attract anything in our life. In that gap, in that space that I was referring, you make conscious contact with that indivisible force, which is the source of all our power, all our joy, and all the fulfillment in our life. So the more we practice to get into that divine space, to get into the gap, the number of thoughts reduce. With the reduction in number of thoughts, obviously the gap increases. So you see how it works? Once you kick off this process, one helps the other. It's a cumulative process of one aiding the other, and the gap increases between your thoughts, and you find more divine space as you keep mastering this technique. My dear friends, this gap is an exquisite place. This is where the creative life force exists. No one can take that gap away from you. That gap is owned by everyone on this planet. What awaits us in that space, the divine space, is the experience of activating those higher human dimensions like the intuition, the insight, the creativity, the peak performances, as well as getting to know relaxation, enchantment, the bliss and peace of making conscious with the creative life energy itself. Keep utmost in your mind that you can enter that gap anytime you want. Isn't that a beautiful feeling? The ultimate reason what awaits you in that gap is the experience of activating higher human dimensions like insight, intuition, creativity, peak performance, as well as having the experience of relaxation, enchantment, bliss and peace of making conscious contact with that creative life force. Keep utmost in your mind that you can tap into that powerful gap, into that powerful divine space any time you choose. The power of that divine gap is available to you even in the middle of your business meeting, at the dinner table, or even in the middle of a heated discussion, or even if you're riding on a crowded bus. That gap is yours. That divine space is yours. No one can ever take that out from you. The doorway to that divine space is always unlocked and available to you. Once you master the technique of entering into that gap, entering into that divine space between your thoughts, you will find yourself seeking the possibilities of creative geniuses and wondrous energies from that miraculous place frequently. No one will ever know that in the middle of horrendous traffic jam, when everyone around you is surrounded in frustration and anxiety, you have dismissed them all behind by going into that serenity of that gap, of that divine space, if only for a moment. By doing so, that will invigorate your soul and remind you to be in a state of appreciation than frustration and depreciation. You would have left the mob of people behind who are looking at that moment as an occasion of being frustrated, while you have yours that moment to take the refuge of that divine space and get into connection with your inner state of peace. Such is the value of knowing how to slip into that divine space at will with just a few tools and techniques on hand. One of the most proven way to access that divine space and to access that gap is mindfulness. My friends, let's have a close look at what's this word mindfulness about, which we always talk. And during this summit, as I mentioned, we would be referring to it again and again. Let me define the mindfulness. Mindfulness is a combination of three key things. First, awareness. Second, paying attention. Third, remembering. So it has got three key components to it. So when I say meditation means awareness, it's being conscious of your experience, because there is no life without experience. Mindfulness means paying attention. So this is focused awareness. It is to develop the ability of paying attention wherever and whenever you choose to do. The third one, as I mentioned, is remembering. This aspect of mindfulness is about paying attention to your experience from moment to moment. Otherwise, it's very easy to be forgetful of being mindful. I would like to remind you that the word remember comes from two Latin words. One is re, which we all know means again, and the second one, memorare, which means being mindful of. So you see, just the word remember always reminds us to be mindful of. So just to see the three words together, it's about experiencing. It's about paying attention to our experience. It's about remembering to do that from moment to moment. In other words, that's the definition of mindfulness. Now let's go a little bit deeper into mindfulness and see what this whole process is about. There are 5 key aspects to mindfulness. First, paying attention. As I just mentioned, paying attention is about your focused awareness to wherever and whenever you choose, which we just touched on. The second most important aspect is present moment. So mindfulness is all about experiencing now and here, just the way things are. So that's a very key aspect about mindfulness. Number 3, non-reacting. Normally, we react to experience based on past conditioning. Mindfulness encourages us to respond to the experiences than react to our thoughts. Reaction is automatic. Reaction leaves us no choice. Whereas response is deliberate, it's a considered action. So that is what this third aspect of non-reactive is about. The fourth key aspect of mindfulness is non-judgmental. Normally, the temptation is to judge everything. For example, I don't like this. I want more bliss. I want less of this. There is always judging. But through mindfulness, for a minute, if we can let go this judgment, then it gives us the ability to see the things the way they are, rather than seeing them through the filter of personal judgment based on our past conditioning. The fifth one, my dear friends, which is last but not the least aspect of mindfulness, is open-heartedness. So, you see, mindfulness is just not an aspect about mind, it's also an aspect about heart. By being open-heartedness, we bring in the qualities like compassion, love, kindness into this mindfulness game. We leave all the cynicism and criticism behind us. Like most of the time when we start our meditation practice, we keep saying, no, I can't do this meditation. This is not for me. That is not the case with mindfulness. So it reminds us to be open-hearted. Why? Because there's really no goal to achieve. It is all about being in the present moment, experiencing what you need to experience now and here. being non-reactive, just responding to the experience, not reacting to your thoughts, being non-judgmental, and with open-heartedness. So that's where this mindfulness is about. There is no goal to reach. There is no rush to really go towards a destination. That is the beauty of this mindfulness. Now, my dear friends, we have talked about all the 5 aspects, I would say the key aspects of mindfulness. But one of the most challenging aspects, which I'd like to share all the time, is the second one that I mentioned to you before, which is being in the present moment. Though it sounds all very familiar, but that is the most challenging thing when it comes to practice. During our life, on day-to-day basis, we are lost in our thoughts. As I said before, on an average, a human being has around 60,000 thoughts during his or her wakeful time. We are so lost in our thoughts that we have no time to enjoy the present moment or even to experience that. We are in autopilot mode. You understand what is autopilot? We don't even know that we are thinking. See, I don't say thinking is bad. Thinking is very good when you want to bring in focus the wisdom for a particular outcome or a particular purpose. But you would agree with me, that's not the case it is. Most our thoughts are purposeless and fruitless because that's how we have been conditioned. So when you say autopilot, that's how we are conditioned. When we have nothing else to do or we want to fill in our time, that's how we fill in our time, with any thought or with every thought. I want to share my experience about being in autopilot. That was the one it came as a shock to me. I remember on my way to work one morning, I clearly remember sitting in my car, starting from my garage, and the next thing I remembered was when I reached the car park at work. My journey to work takes me 30 minutes. And that day, my friends, I realized that I had no account for that 30 minutes on travel because I was in that autopilot mode that I was talking about. I had lost those 30 precious minutes of my life because that's how I was conditioned. I sit in the car and I switch off. Why? Because my 30 minutes were totally filled with thoughts. And where are these thoughts coming from? Either these thoughts were from the past or for the future. That is how we fill our time, my dear friends. Either we are stuck in the past or we are thinking about the future. So you might say, what's wrong in being in that mode? Let me allude you a little bit. When you are in past, all you are thinking is how you could change the situation to work it better for you in your favor. So what happens most of the time when you're thinking about the past? You want to live that moment again. You want to change the situation again. So what remains with you is grief. So my dear friends, literally the memories from the past, most of the time, 99% of the time gives you grief. Either that, or we are so busy planning for the future. That future which is so uncertain. When the future itself is uncertain, what can it give us except anxiety? So do you see how I'm trying to tell you that all we are living our life is just going from grief to uncertainty, going from past to future. So what is happening with this pendulum activity is we're missing the main life. And what's that main life? That's our present moment. Because life is nothing but accumulation of multitude of these present moments that we are missing. We are missing out all the experiences. My dear friends, life is here in the present moment. And that is why being in the present moment is such a key aspect of mindfulness. Why? Because this is where all the miracles in your life are happening. But you will not be aware of that miracles unless you are engaged in that present moment. So let us go a little bit deeper into this present moment puzzle. What happens when you are in the present moment? My dear friends, when you are in the present moment, there is no time for thoughts. There's no time for deliberation. All that is required is action. because you do not have much time to really start planning. Would you have time to plan if you had a snake in front of you and you had to react? Obviously not. If I went a little bit deeper into the present moment story, you've got only two choices. Either you like the situation, you go along with it, or the second choice is you don't like it. So what happens when you don't like it? When you like it, that's fine because you're happy with the situation and you're going along with it. But when you do not like the present situation, then there are three choices, my friends. The first choice, because you don't like it, you can separate yourself from that situation. Well, if you can do that, well and good. If you can't, what's the second choice? The second choice is, do you have the capacity or the capability of changing that situation? Well, if you have that power, if you have that ability to change the situation, well, do so. But what if you do not have the choice 1 and 2, my friends, which most of the time is the case with the life? That is when the real life comes in front of us. That is when you are looking into the face of the universe, you're looking at the face of your life. And the only choice that's left for us is to acknowledge that situation and accept it wholeheartedly the way it is. My dear friends, you might have heard this. If you resist, it persists. If you accept, it transforms. That's exactly what happens in this universe with our life. The moment we acknowledge and accept the situation the way it is, things start transforming. And in that transformation, the whole universe lines up for you so that the whole thing lines up with the purpose of your life. As you all know, every moment in our life comes to us for a purpose. And when you are aligned with the purpose, the whole universe supports you to go ahead, to learn that learning, or to help you to have that growth in your life that's a learning from that experience. Now, this is where the miracles happen. Most of us call it miracles because we are not engaged in that happening. But when you acknowledge and accept the situation, and when things start changing, then you realize that it's no longer a miracle because you have a powerful say in it. You have a lot of involvement in that miracle to happen. And then the helplessness, then the victimization just vanishes from your life because you feel so powerful. Because you know that you have an important role to play in that whole change. Let me give you a small story or a parable that one of my dear friends shared with me while I was having a very good discussion. You know why I love telling parables and stories? Because when we were little, our parents used to read us bedtime stories. We might have forgotten everything, but those bedtime stories always remain with us for the rest of the life. This is how in any field the parables and the little stories help us. So this beautiful story is about a wild forest where there was a pregnant deer. It was quite pregnant and it was very close to giving birth to its little one. One fine morning, the deer wakes up just to see that there's a hunter in the corner and he's got his bow and arrow ready, aiming on that deer. Now, the deer looks around and wants to escape. The moment it looks in the other direction to escape, guess what? There's a lion in the corner, ready to pounce on the deer. Both the hunter and the lion know that this pregnant deer cannot gallop as it would normally do. So, my dear friend, if we take the analogy of all the options I was talking, the poor deer did not like the situation. But could it avoid the situation? Could it separate from the conditions? No, it was pregnant and it did not have the ability to even run or gallop away. Could it change the situation? Possibly not. Then the only situation or the only option that was left for the deer was, come what may, I'm totally acknowledging and accepting that situation. The moment the thought came into the deer's mind, a big lightning occurred and struck the hunter. The hunter was so dazzled by the lightning that the bow and arrow which he had, it missed the target and the arrow left his bow and hit the lion. The lion died instantly, and at the same time, the hunter was struck by the lightning and he died too. Something that the deer would not have even thought about in its wildest dream had, by how the situations change, how the universe comes into play. My dear friends, though it is the story, it's a very good story that we can apply to our lives. This is exactly how miracles happen, and we miss to see these little miracles that go on in our life. Once we start paying a little bit more awareness, a little bit more conscious, then we understand that we are such an important puzzle into this so-called miraculous happening. Now, I have told you about how important this present moment is. But my friends, you must be wondering, yes, she's saying it's good to be in the present moment. But how do we be in the present moment? We all know it's so difficult for us to break the chain of thoughts, or even to look for the gap or the space between the thoughts, which I said was the divine space. So I would like to share one of the techniques that I have been using for the last 8 years. Whenever I'm lost in thoughts, or whenever I'm lost in these worldly matters, and I want to come into the present moment, I take the guidance, I take the aid of my 5 spiritual senses, which I call my 5 spiritual sensory organs. They are not spiritual, they are in everyone, but I call them spiritual because they connect to my inner being. We all have 5 sensory organs. If we just go quickly, our sight, what we see, nose, our sense of smell, our tongue, our sense of taste, ears, sense of hearing, and our skin, sense of feeling. Though you might just dismiss them as 5 sensory organs, my dear friends, you can call them our gurus, you can call them our friends, because they can instantly bring you back into the present moment. Let me give you just one small example by taking one sensory organ. When you want to come to the present moment, you can use your sight as one of your guide. What are you seeing in the current moment? Most of the time, my friends, we are just looking at things. We're not really seeing anything. We have got so conditioned, looking through people, looking through objects, we are not even paying attention. That's not being in the present moment. Present moment is when you really look at the thing. So in the practice that I do, if I'm at work and I'm sitting in front of my desk, I ask this question, what am I really seeing? So if it is my desk, I would like to see the texture. I would like to see the color of my desk. That way, I strongly get connected to my present moment. You can use the same principle for your sense of smell. You can question yourself, what am I smelling now? And that will not lie. If you're sensing some foul smell, that will bring you back into the present moment, because that itself is an experience. So you all can try in your spare time, or whenever you feel like connecting back. The way you can connect to these 5 sensory organs is a very good way of bringing you from midst of any material world or in the middle of any chain of thoughts you are, to come to your present moment. Now friends, we have talked about how to be in the present moment. Now what I was talking about, this mindfulness, by practicing mindfulness, one thing that becomes clear is all you are is a pure witness to life's experience. The thoughts, the emotion, the bodily sensations, they may come and go while you are in your mindfulness practice, but there is a part of you which is observing all that is happening, and that is your awareness itself. Mindfulness is not about self-improvement. In the core of your being, you are perfectly beautiful the way you are. Mindfulness is not about changing yourself. It is realizing the fact that you're beautiful within yourself just the way you are. Again, my friends, I would like to tell you or share with you a beautiful legend or a parable which will make you understand what I'm trying to say about the beauty of the divineness you have in yourself. This legend is back from old times, where it is said that all the human beings, they were very much connected to the divineness. At one time, the human beings, they started to abuse their divinity. So the creator of the universe got very offended, and that took away the divinity and now wanted to hide this divinity in a place where human beings could never place their hands. So the creator obviously started looking for the most trickiest place. Where could I hide this? Could I hide it under the earth? In the sky? In a volcano? In mountain? The creator looked everywhere, but then thought, nah, these human beings will find skills and techniques to explore and find this divineness wherever I hide it. But if I hide this divinity within them, they're never going to have a chance to find it. My dear friends, though this is a legend, but is it not true that today most of us are looking for divinity, looking for God, looking for consciousness outside? How many eons, how many decades are we spending to find that divineness outside us, where we all know truly that divinity lies within us all? We are all complete. We are all perfect. We are all beautiful the way we are within. We cannot feel that we are perfect because we identify ourselves with our emotions and with our thoughts that are ever changing. We do not have to do anything externally, anything special to find that natural state. What we have to do is to realize the fact that the natural state is here. We are that natural state all the time, right here and now. So the journey to the divine space ends in finding that divinity back here, which says the divinity lies within us all. My dear friends, stay blessed and be connected with that divine place within each one of you through practice of meditation and mindfulness. I wish you all great peace in your spiritual journey. Thank you very much.